So, hello everyone. This is Michi Hoyer and I'm going to do a full race simulation today for World Fastest Gamer that races tomorrow. So this is probably real practice time since the race starts about 10 PM Central European time. And yeah, we're just like 20 minutes late on that, but never mind, in the end it's yeah, close to being real. So now it looks like either my rFactor has crashed or my mouse is out of power. It was the mouse being without of power. So quickly gonna fix that. All right. And then we can go racing. So the race is gonna be 30 minutes and tomorrow it's not gonna be started behind the pace car just like now. Tomorrow it's gonna be the leader that gives the pace, but basically for simulation reasons this is quite good. Tomorrow we are racing on the Silverstone GP layout, not the GP, the international layout or national layout. I mix them up all the time. So the short one including Cops and the old Sector 3 and the old start-finish straight. Lap time is probably gonna be around 53s, mid 53s I expect. So we looked at the brakes, gonna have some temperature. Tires yeah, won't be warm after that short notice. Pace car's gone, and as soon as the green flags goes, we go.
Green flag, go, go, go!
Now. And now we got 30 minutes of racing. Tire is still very cold, the car's very slippery. Driving McLaren 650 S GT3. Quite an understeery car, like actual GT3 car obviously. Yeah, you really can feel the fuel being in the car. Like it's very slippery, very loose in the back end.
That lap was a 54.07.
This is probably one of the most ugliest corner. I mean, literally this track as it is, it has 4 corners, more or less. And in every one of those you simply can lose a little bit, and I mean people already saw it in the qualifiers, like the top 20 were separated by less than 1.5 tenths. I think it were 140 thousandths between P1 and P20 or something. So every little slide costs you like a tenth of a second
53.56
for that car. And I think so you can see that sliding a little bit harms the pace a lot. Don't get distracted by the time tray in the top. Probably it was control and set rather than alt and set what I should have pushed in order to reset it, because it's still calibrated to the hot laps. There you go. So now it's gonna be calibrated to the lap I just did right now.
That was a 53.63.
For those looking at the bar at the top, which is green at the minute, it's the Delta Best plugin, and you can find it on Race Department, and it's literally the same like you get on iRacing per default. Anyways, if someone of you have questions whatsoever, just put them in the live chat and I will answer them if I get a chance. I'm definitely gonna look at them.
That lap was a 53.38.
Obviously this race simulation is just for being comfortable. I think it has become quite clear that probably qualifying is what matters the most. At least in the first 3 rounds it was like this. So when you made a good qualifying, you were starting in the front, and as soon as you did not do any silly mistakes, you literally kept that position, since it's very, very hard to overtake with those cars. I mean, the people we're competing at are at top level, so you would not expect them to be or to do many mistakes or to have a lot of inconsistency during that race.
That was a 53.36.
So if one of those rare mistakes appear, you really have to make sure to be around and get yourself some advantage out of that. Yes, AOR Adrenaline, that race is tomorrow, probably around just now. So the official stream of McLaren will start at 9:30 PM Central European time, which is just like exactly 1 hour ago. And I think the stream kicks in with the Super Pole, and then the race start is 10 PM Central European time.
53.41.
Oops, I slightly braked myself, and this is probably just one of those mistakes I just told you about. Like, I've lost like 1.5 tenths, and this would enable people to get a better exit behind me to just attack me into this corner right here. One problem of this competition is, and I've spoken to many people about it, this competition is a little bit favoring the guys who can like nail it on one lap and get one good lap together. No doubt that those people are highly trained and highly skilled drivers, but obviously to be a good race driver, it's not only driving a car fast but also consistent. I mean, I just did 1 or 2 mistakes right now, but my times are just yeah, circling around a 53.3 towards a 53.5. I think I had one 53.6 till yet, and as you can see, we're finishing lap number 8. So a very complete driver is able to pull in quite fast lap times when it matters, like in qualifying.
53.36.
But is also capable of doing high consistency during a longer period of time, especially in a race or on a stint, exactly when it's needed. However, because the car is set up like it, or has that slipstream, that bad slipstream I want to say, when overtaking is not really possible, because it features some dirty air as well. This is when you can do a very good qualifying lap and place your car right in the front of the grid. And as I just said, as long as you got a decent race and some rare consistency, you're gonna end up in that place where I just qualified.
That was a 53.28.
Thank you for a question there, Adrenaline. Well, I don't really know, to be fair. I mean, on this lap, varying lap times between some tenth is probably more inconsistent rather than being consistent. I mean, in Zandvoort, where I actually qualified for that race, the lap times were around 1 minute 36, and I did mid to high 36s, which is probably about the same range like this now. Currently I'm doing between 53.2s and 53.4s or 5. I mean, a mistake is done very quickly here, and as I said, a little slide or whatever and you just lose a tenth. So it probably looks not that consistent as you would expect on a short racetrack, but still I do believe a variation of lap times within 2 to 3 tenths can still be considered being very consistent.
The lap was a 53.48.
And please don't ask me whether I'm fast. I'm not gonna know it before tomorrow. I mean, racing this car very often just being and feeling comfortable with it. That's the main reason why I do those race simulations, because just to feel comfortable with the car, see its behavior. Maybe you find something else to change for the car balance on race trim. You often find something there when going with high fuel, taking the same lines, taking different lines, just concentrating on being consistent and keep it going good.
That was a 53.32.
As you can see, we're entering now around lap 12, and tires look very good, like the rears and the fronts are practically the same in terms of wear, and those all are information which are helpful for the race tomorrow, because you know that you can push a little bit more and you don't really have to look for one axis in terms of tire wear or something.
The lap was a 53.50.
Oops. Yeah, probably a little bit too much oversteer in the car, and that's exactly what I mean by doing that race simulation. It's after 12 or 13 or 15 laps where the car reveals its its real balance. Like, because this is the point where the tires drop a little bit in grip and be a little bit more valuable to your driving style. It's like in real Formula 1. After the first few laps, the tires
that was a
degrade a little bit,
53.43,
and then the car balance changes a lot. Like, not a lot, but definitely gonna change to some point. And it's either you feel comfortable with it, or you expect it, or you do not expect it, or do not feel comfortable with it. Like at Zandvoort, it really was that the first 5 or 6 laps they were consistent, fast pace, and then first the tires, and then obviously the lap times were dropping a little bit. Here I cannot see this yet, but it might still come.
That lap was a 53.36.
In general about this car, it feels very heavy. It feels like you wouldn't Grand Touring car, like you expect it to feel. However, though, you can very fast become oversteery with it. Like if you're sideways and you just push the throttle, you can feel the rear going a little bit. And currently we're driving with anti-lock system or anti-brake system on high, and traction control on at least low.
That was a 53.58.
Even when going sideways, and you might want to drift the one or other car in real life just a tiny little bit to get some more turning, some more speed carrying and momentum on exits or something. But as soon as you slide this car a little bit, including some wheel spin, you're definitely gonna lose a lot of traction, which definitely harms your pace. So it's very important that you keep clean and drive very neat. Hence that is exactly what I try to do. I found out that the more gentle you are on the steering, probably the more grip you feel out of those tires.
That was a 53.53.
It's very important that you don't overheat the tires, because thermal degradation is definitely something that slows you down quite a lot. And sliding obviously doesn't help lap time, it doesn't help tire wear. It's just that like circle of a devil. You're going downwards, going slower and slower, and the issues become worse and worse. So that's something you definitely don't want. So you should drive it, like as I said, as clean as possible. Give the car enough time to do what you expect it to do what you want it to do, and then the car will clearly do exactly what you want it to do, if that makes any sense.
That was a 53.50.
And that was not what it did right now. So this lap is a cut lap. I think you can have like 3 cut laps or something, and then you get awarded a penalty, like it's a drive-through or something. It happens very quickly here at turn 1. Like you do lose the car on the entry of turn 1 in Cope's corner, and then it's literally a cut lap since you're gonna be dragged wide anyway. Despite this little mistake, which as you saw costed me another 10th, this lap time would have been around just 53.6, So now there's that point of time, as I said, where the tire is gonna start degrading a little bit, losing some pace. Nothing serious, but now you can see and feel it. I can especially feel it, and you guys can see it in the lap times. I expect this lap time to be a 53.6 or something already. Not because I'm gonna slow down for it, but it's obviously what I feel is the car and the tire is able to handle at the second. And we clearly want to see how this develops. Like you can see, I'm gonna lose some tenth in every corner right now.
That lap was a 53.74.
In fact, it was not only a 0.6 but a 0.7. And now you see I really have to work a lot harder on the wheel, not to keep the car going, but keep it stable.
That was a 53.53.
I would somewhat agree on that, because as I said, the balance changes a lot, and I'm not talking on world fastest gamer car right now, but on the last year's FSR car, which was a 2016 Formula 1 specification car. And in the beginning, I mean, the car felt so understeery just because of its natural way it's built. So the understeer was quite massive, and you really had to like adapt your driving to it. However, as soon as the tires were worn, and
that was a
it was not like that the rear tires were gone much earlier than the front. But as soon as all tires dropped, the car balance shifted a lot to the back, which resulted into quite some oversteery moments and in general very oversteery behavior, which therefore made the rear tire to be the one to really look for. So I found out, just like you said, when I tweaked the setup until I liked it in the beginning stages of the stint, and I was like, went out of the pits, first 3, 4, 5 laps, full confidence in the car. I felt full speed, really the ability to drive the car at the limits.
That lap was a 53.54.
But in long term that really didn't work for me, because when I had to do like 17, 18 or 19 laps on a set of tires, at least after 13 or 14 laps, the car became so undrivable that all the little tenths that were won in the beginning of the stint have been lost by spins or going wide or whatever. So there was clearly no benefit in it. So I had to change the setup back again to what it was before, and I suffered a little bit in the beginning of the stint, but at the end of the stint I just enjoyed myself having still a reliable and somewhat expectable car. Like, yes, there were some oversteering moments, but you could really deal with it because the car balance was still
that was a
like it should have been.
53.73.
And therefore I would clearly answer that question with a yes. The most fine-tuning setup changes you probably find in a race simulation, because then you know exactly what you can change to still make the car keep the car fast, but to improve it in some little way. You most likely change some anti-roll bars, or you agree on a different aero balance, so change the wings, or it's just some minor setting that you will find out to be a little bit better in terms of long distance pace.
That lap was a 53.73.
So we just got some 7 minutes to go. Meanwhile, lap times are consistent, 53.7. So we tried to do some little sport at the end and trying to increase the pace a little bit again. So it's probably, with 6.5 minutes to go, probably 7 or 8 laps.
53.53.
And it's like really some weight in that car with 60 liters of fuel. That's something I would not have expected to be such an effect, was fuel. But literally, even on that short lap, 60 liters makes somewhat of 1 second in terms of time difference. What I clearly will do with that mode is giving it a try on the north slope. I think this car is perfect for being raced at the north slope, because it's very entertaining, very fun.
That lap was a 53.66.
And because it's a GT3 car that can have some high travel range on the suspension, you can set it up very good for the north slope and its bumps and all its elevation changes. So that's really something I'm going to do, probably with my teammate Martin Stefanko, who's also on the World Fastest Gamer final tomorrow. So not only 1 but 2 ACR cars in the finals, and we're really looking forward to it. Hopefully with some little better lap times than what I do just right now. Looks like another 53.7 coming up.
That lap was a 53.75.
Thing about this car is you really need to concentrate, and yeah, while all this talking going on, concentration suffers a little bit sometimes. Just being honest with me there. It's just maybe a man thing, you know, multitasking stuff. So that basically means I clearly can feel the drivers in Formula 1 saying no further talking, no further radio please. Because sometimes, I mean, they are at a different level of stress because of the G-forces and everything. But in the end it's quite comparable.
That was a 53.58.
In some circumstances you just want to focus and stay focused and yeah, carry out the job you want to do, or you have to do in that perspective. And driving a Formula 1 car definitely is work, so you really need to be concentrated, otherwise you might end up in the wall like Grosjean did today.
That lap was a 53.58.
So, yeah, adrenaline, I can really feel you about the consistency with the pad. I know people being consistent with the pad. However, as you can see, I'm on a wheel, Logitech G25. The main difference between the pad and the wheel is I operated with, I wouldn't call it 4 major elements of my body: 2 feet, 2 hands, 10 fingers if you want. And that's a real difference towards the pad, since you just run it with, well, 2 hands, 10 fingers. But you sort out the braking, the accelerating, the cornering, just on like 1 or 2 centimeters travel range.
That was a 53.75.
You cannot be that accurate with the pads and the fingers, like I can be with the wheel. Like, I mean, some people can do it for sure. I will be honest, I would not be able to do that. Not because I'm too stupid to move buttons around or to move joysticks around, but I'm just happy that I have so much range, so much detail in terms of steering and driving. Like, there's no force feedback on a pad, so I get force feedback here and I can exactly feel when this McLaren wants to spin around and counter steer it. And I can use more senses on that wheel rather than on a joypad. So
the lap was
I'm very impressed, and
53.54.
hats off to those people being very consistent with the joystick, but it's a lot harder. Oops. So eventually this was the last lap, and I'm gonna come back to your question soon. Adrenaline, I'm just finishing that race and go back to pit straight. So every single lap has been within the 53s. I'm gonna prove you that. So the virtual personal best would have been a 53.161 if I just have nailed all sectors together. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you that in a bit. What else I can find out in the stint. In the end, I just want to show and reveal that livery we're going to use for tomorrow. I'm just gonna quickly park the car in the garage and show you some footage while talking. So we did full 34 laps, which is, well, what you can do lapping 53s in like half an hour. So we're set in and home. First, we're gonna quickly have a look at the lap times. So starting off 53.5. Okay, I did a 54.0, but this was the opening lap with going to green flag. So 53.5, 6, 3, 3, 4, 5, 3, 2, 4, 4, and so on. So until here, I would say that was the drop off, like 15 laps, doing consistently between, I want to exclude that lap, but 53.3, 53.5, I want to exclude those two as well because of cold tires, so real tire work started here. So we went between 0.3 and let's say a 0.5. If we keep it here, it's all 0.3s and 0.4s. 1.5 in here. So that's what was clearly being consistent. Here you can see the cut lap going on with 0.5s, 0.7, 0.5, 0.6, 0.5, a few 0.7s, 0.5, 0.6. And in the end, yeah, a bad mistake going in the penultimate corner, otherwise it would have been 0.6. I just saw that on the Delta Best. So you can really call this like being consistent. However, just some footage of our car tomorrow. As you can see, black car, ACR logo on it, ACR colors, the nationality flag of the driver. So we have Martin Stefanko from Czech Republic. I'm actually German, so that's why I got German flags on the rear wing. And we're proudly happy that the sim pit is featuring our car. As you can see, his logo is right on the side where the doors are. Enjoy watching it while I'm going to answer the question of adrenaline quickly. How can you prove your consistency? I mean, it is a very difficult thing. You really need to put a lot of work into it, a lot of dedication, a lot of I want to call it self-discipline. Like as you said, you quickly gonna get distracted. But what I did first is like according to this, let's say in qualifying I would do a low 52, so like a 52.3 or like a 52.4, what I actually did. And as you can see, I was able to pull in some laps 53.3, 0.5, 0.4, somewhere around that to being consistent. However, if you are not consistent, I would just recommend to drive a car at like 95% of your abilities. Like set yourself a target. Let's say, alright, I want to do clean laps, I want to do solid laps, and I want to lap like 53.8 all the time. So you don't push the car to the limit, give yourself some little bit safety margin, and then you do like 10 laps and you say all should be 53.8, 53.9, 53.7 in that range, and then you go out and do it. And once you've achieved it, you say okay, the next target is to go 1/10 quicker in general, and then you do it until you've achieved it. And so you start climbing until you reach your, so to say, 100% of speed and consistency, and then you just put it together. And don't get distracted by it because it takes you long. It took me, I don't want to say like years, but every year you learn something. I remembered when coming to Formula Sim racing in 2014, I was really inconsistent. Like the lap times were variating between 3 or 4/10 of a second in a Formula 1 car, which you definitely should not do. And meanwhile, I'm able to put like laps in within 1/10. So it's not something that came overnight or that came by one day of practice. It's continuously development that's going on in your mind, going on in your mental ability. You really need to build up some mental ability and some mental strength to like operate on a high limit on a ever-changing environment. So this is something that could be taken into consideration. And then it's actually the car. Like you need a setup that's very reliable. Like when you come out of a hairpin and push full throttle, you must have the faith into your car that it not wants to step out. And when you all have achieved that things like the concentration, the time being put in, a good setup, a stable setup, a reliable setup, and then all comes by itself. So that is the hint or the yeah, the tip I can give you. At Werner, I do not have any mod whatsoever on my brake pedal. I'm just using the standard box G25 brake pedal. So standard potentiometer, no load cell brake, because if I would have a load cell, that would be like this. So it would be first corner and pure carnage. So that's why I'm still on the old brake. So because I don't want to be here sitting and just boring you guys out, I'm gonna see if I can restart the weekend and try to put in some qualifying laps. So qualifying, as I said earlier on in the show, is really important. So we're gonna have a try for some laps before ending the stream today. You can still feel free. Oops, red lights. So I expect a penalty. I was lucky, obviously. So still feel free handing your questions in. What do you mean by custom hack? I mean, it's just like you go into MediaMarkt or anything like that, buy a G25 and use the standard paddles. You can clearly contact me on that brake mod and tell me more about it, since I'm literally interested. Obviously my braking still can be improved. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in going more realism, so I would glad if we can have a talk later on.
That was a 52.89.
Alright, first qualifying run, 52.6 that will be, I think.
That lap was a 52.70.
Definitely too slow for tomorrow. Like, obviously lap times will be a little bit slower than in the World Fastest Gamer pre-qualifying event, since you just not get hours of testing and hours of putting laps in, but just 15 minutes. So probably if you can pull out 52.6 straight away, that's probably hand you some tiny position. However, I could be proven wrong by tomorrow. We will see and come back on that topic tomorrow then. Alright, Werner, just get back on me as soon as you found out something about the brake pedal pad. At Adrenaline, I can tell you that high quality equipment, or as Werner and me are just talking about, brakes pedal feeling more real. Obviously they give you a little bit more feedback and detail on the car's behavior, but definitely they do not make you faster just by being realistic or being high quality stuff. So I'm sure that you are a fast driver, and it's not the driving force GT wheel that keeps you holding up. Speaking of consistency, what can bring you something are load cell brakes maybe, because just by natural human being, your human body and your brain can remember the amount of muscle force being applied way easier than the amount of pedal weight is pushed by a potentiometer.
That was a 52.83.
This means definitely that a brake pedal with load cell could give you even more feedback and probably slows you up, not down, but makes you a little bit faster and more consistent maybe, since there is more feedback, more to remember, more to react on, and literally, yeah, as I said, more details in it. By negative rake, I expect you to mean a higher front axis and a lower rear axis, so that the nose points upwards like it would on a plane while takeoff. Actually, no, I haven't, because in theory this should like decrease the downforce and turn it into an up force, like I just said, if the air is flowing under the body wear, and it will push the car up like a plane on takeoff, as I said. Therefore no, I've not tried negative rake. Yeah, I missed that corner, so basically that lap can already go to trash. Yeah, but the thing is, on the car, the anti-roll bars here, they are very soft, if not detached on some setups, and the spring rate in the front is very soft. In fact, it got some stiffer springs in the rear, but in general the suspensions are very soft. To be fair, as you said, the drag,
That lap was a 55.48.
it is very important. Like, the rake is giving you definitely some downforce still as the car moves forwards like this. And with that being said, especially in fast corners where the car should be really settled above the bumps, this definitely helps. Like in the first set, on the first race here at Silverstone, we ran minimum ride height on the front and minimum ride height on the rear, and we changed that for some Ford in a different way, and it worked a lot better. Like, the rear was a little bit more turning, but at the very same time being off throttle or being on throttle through fast corners, it went a lot more stable because of some generated downforce. Yes, when you go positive rake, obviously the diffuser loses a little bit of effect, since the space between the car and the ground becomes too huge, so the air is not compressed and there is no downforce being generated by the bodywear then. Yes, however the drag, while having a high rake, did not affect the top speed too much. It was just like 1 kph or something. But the cornering speeds were like a lot more higher, or especially the balance of the car was a lot better. So we went for positive rake. My thoughts on Formula 1 today and tomorrow. I'm very mixed on that. Like, I was not laughing, but I was like, really, when I stepped into first free practice 3 and there was water on the track and it said track status red flag, no session running, too much water whatsoever. And then they opened qualifying, having even more water on the track, and I was like, seriously, you're joking. After that, I mean, we all saw that Grosjean had his moment. I could understand that red flag, but I could not understand the session being restarted 15:45 local at Monza again, because that was the point where no rain was coming down, and in the end Q3 was as heavy rain as like 3 PM, where they just kept it paused for some other hour or something. So the actions that have been taken by Charlie Whiting or by race control, people in the end said, yeah, they did a good job on waiting so long, and for me it just was a waste of time for a lot of people. Like, imagine the Formula 2 race would not have been there. That would have just been some sort of tragedy.
That was a 52.
For tomorrow,
88.
well, let's put it this way. Hamilton will probably hold the lead into lap 1. Bottas will try to find his way around, I think it's Ocon starting in row 1 and Stroll in row 2. He might get Stroll towards the first corner, but it's all Mercedes power in the front rows there. After that, I mean, Stroll and Ocon gonna be definitely hard being overtaken, because I think Force India are running so low wings again. Probably need to do it by strategy. Behind that, I think Raikkonen will just stand at the start and will sleep, so that Vettel will get immediately past him. And you can see my attitude towards it, towards that stuff going on with Ferrari. I mean, yes, probably Mercedes gonna do the very same with Bottas from now on too. I won't like it as well, obviously. But yeah, I mean, every single time something breaks on a Ferrari, or I mean, even the so-called overcut, which should not have been faster in Monaco, was suddenly faster, so Vettel could sweep by. I mean, so much strange activity going on in that team, and with Raikkonen being like really degraded, like a water supply on a sports team. Well, that's embarrassing. I mean, I know they want the title so badly, but that's just not sympathetic, and it's just embarrassing.
52.66.
To be fair, and I stopped driving at this point. The thing about Charlie is, after the crash with Bianchi in Suzuka and the fatal death he occurred because of that, he's super cautious. I mean, nothing is wrong about being cautious. Formula 1 is a dangerous sport. Motorsport in general is a dangerous sport. People can get killed, and we all have to be happy for that highly advanced safety features all that monocoques got. I mean, look at that Alonso crash in Australia last year, and especially look at what happened at IndyCar this year with, sorry, I can't remember the name, but that car was literally totally destroyed. Like, it was on the left hand side, it was like you just put a saw right beside the monocoque. Everything else was gone. There was no suspension, no tire, the cooler was ripped away. The bodyworks were ripped away, even the bodywork, the floor, everything was gone. So, with that being said, you would expect the full car to be broken, but it was the monocoque that kept intact, saving, I think Scott Dixon, was it? Saved Scott Dixon's life. And I mean, this was probably one of the worst crashes I ever seen, and that guy just walked out and gave an interview like nothing has happened 30 minutes afterwards. And bearing that in mind, with all the other safety features like no support vehicle on track, while no virtual safety car at least, with all those features, I mean, the guys in Formula 1 are being considered the best racing drivers in the world. So even if it's icy on road, send them out, give them appropriate tires, on ice maybe with spikes, I don't care, or give them heavy wets. Pirelli really needs to work on those tires again, but give them the right material to go out and just drive for the show. Not saying fuck off safety, definitely not, but okay, Monza is a little bit tricky thing because of 30-50 kph on the straights. Yeah, but too much safety stuff going around there, and it was just like, as Dr. Helmut Marko was, just let them race. The minimum rake on the car is, I think it's 20 millimeters from front to rear, so 45 in the front and 65 in the back. To be fair, no. I just think Mercedes has much more power, and the chassis itself generates a lot more downforce by its natural being. However, I mean, Mercedes is bad in the race because they got issues on the tires. I think Ferrari can stretch the tires a little bit more, despite having not as much power and not as much downforce, but the package itself on the suspension is probably better than at Mercedes. I mean, remember back days 4 or 5 years ago, the Mercedes had the power, the Mercedes had the downforce, they had that one lap speed, but they were crap in the race for tire degradation and stuff like that. And in the past couple of years, it simply didn't matter because there was no competition apart from Mercedes. So I think that's the difference here. The Ferraris definitely have less downforce because they were faster in first and third sector. That's at least what I witnessed. I think Bottas got the best lap time in Q1. No, it wasn't Q1. It was not on the qualifying. I think it was free practice too. It was dry. Bottas got the fastest lap time overall, but the sectors were, I think none of the sectors were Bottas purple. So that really shows the differences between the cars there. On the thing with the red flag in wet weather, I somewhat agree, yes. I mean, we had so much rain chaos. Like, if you look at, I think it was Nürburgring 2006, where suddenly Winkelhock was leading the race in a spiker. A Minardi back then, whatever. That was the most hilarious opening laps I ever witnessed on Formula 1, just for that rain chaos going on, but it took them quite long to throw out the red flag there. Meanwhile, probably this race would never have been started at all. Like, it would have been aborted in the formation lap, I think. And this is really no offense to Charlie. I think he has a tough job and he has a lot of responsibility, and he has some pretty stupid decisions to make. But it's time for a change there, I think. I mean, Bernie had this business too long, and probably it's Charlie having this business too long too. This is not an official public server, so it's a private server on my own. Or not server, I'm just testing offline.
That was a 55.26.
Martin should be on his way home from Prague. He had some virtual GP race today, a series where he is competing in beside FSR. And it's a shame because they always meet in Prague, everyone there, and the organizers, they put in like 15 identical rigs, but on Martin's rig today it was a technical issue, so he could not unleash his full performance, and due to that he was, whoa, oops, just slipped on the grass there. Due to this technical issues, he just scored a P4, although he had clearly had a winning pace. But yeah, as I said, unfortunately, just a P4 for technical issues. And I think
the lap was 1:04.08.
for today, he just got a rest, because virtual GP and this traveling to Prague and backwards is always having like a bit of a hard time. So he really deserves a nap and recovering for tomorrow's big race. Yeah, Nick, I think you're absolutely right. And they showed the comparison what Grosjean did different towards Lewis Hamilton. Like Lewis Hamilton on his Q1 lap, he had an oversteery and aquaplaning moment, and he immediately backed off the throttle. And despite losing time, he just went fastest there. I think like everyone had this aquaplaning stuff there, but Grosjean just went full throttle back again, and then he had the second moment of aquaplaning, and then obviously it was too late. My final position in the qualifiers, in the hot lap qualifiers, was P25. I scored a 52.415, which was I think the winning time was a 52.23, so around 2/10 off pace there. Wouldn't call it off pace though. That's an off track, but yeah. Anyway, this upcoming lap will be my last lap probably. It's quite late and I can see that there is no benefit in going on like this at the second, since I'm not matching my lines and not matching my my plans where I want to go. I will quickly then answer the question of Werner before before ending that stream and do some off-track activity. And I'm completely offline again. As I said, this is such a tricky corner there. Anyway. I'm not sure if they balls to the wall, because I mean, you saw Lance Stroll having a hard time on the wet conditions in China. That was at the very beginning. And with some more laps being put in today, there was a line where no aquaplaning should have been feared. So I do believe that it does not really make a difference whether being old or not old. I mean, Grosjean drives like his 7th or 8th season in Formula 1 right now. Maybe not that much, but he's not in his debut season. So he should have learned the lesson earlier, and I think many rookies and many young boys did better than he today. But anyway, tomorrow we're gonna expect a dry race maybe, and I'm really sure that this Formula 1 race is just an opening for a good race day tomorrow, finding its final in McLaren's World Fastest Gamer. Oh Rudy, that's interesting that you ask, but the estimated pole time, I mean if someone nails his lap, it's a 52.3, I would say. I highly doubt that you get so much confidence in your car that you can pull out and just go straight to a 52.2. I do not expect that, but some lucky guy, if he nails his lap on the 3rd, 4th or 5th attempt, will score a 53.3. 52.3, sorry. What is your thought on that topic? Trust me, I think Rudy has better chances winning this tomorrow than I got. So Rudy has just proved he did a qualifying trial of 52.3 already. Technically, I should be able doing the same. However, I just could not pull it in right now. I should have even done a 0.4 and I haven't reached that. So it's better to take some time off and just relax out of the day to focus for tomorrow. I have to actually check the temperatures. Yeah, but you're right. I don't know. Maybe just to... Well, it was just a race simulation just to get used to the car. I mean, the conditions yesterday, I mean, people were saying in race 2 the race itself did develop the real road. Others say that it was static. For me it was still static, I don't know. I mean, you're actually right, I should have done it on 29 degrees. But it's just to get in some confidence, you know. And what Rudy just said is just about exactly right. It's what I said in the stream earlier on. If you place your car in front on qualifying, and if you don't fuck it up on the start, sorry for my language there, you're probably gonna win it. If you do not make any silly mistake during the race. Anyway, for tonight, thank you very much for watching, and have a good night and enjoy that fabulous race day coming up for tomorrow, starting with Formula 1, probably with Formula 2 and Porsche Cup in front for anyone who has a watch at that. Otherwise, enjoy the Formula 1 race and tune in tomorrow at 9:30 PM Central European Time for the live stream coming up at McLaren.com. Thank you very much for watching. Good night.